Vicky's first plunge in the swimming pool. Put this on. Put your hands dry.
What we're gonna do?
How's that? Okay. Come on down. You can float with that on. That'll make you float. Bring your hand. I got you. Your feet might not touch bottom, but you'll float. You want to come in?
No, I'm getting that. I'm getting that.
Well, I want you to walk in the water and see what it feels like first. Then I'll put you in this so you won't get red of it. Okay, step down again. I've got you. Nothing to be afraid of. See? Now let your feet down. Bring your feet down. Look, you're floating. You're
Got
floating.
nose, help me in there. Got nose.
We'll get your feet back up here. See, that keeps you floating. You keep that on and it keeps you floating, and I'm right here beside you. Okay? You want to come down the steps again?
I'm running up.
Why?
I'm gonna wait over there. The duck comes down.
Well, this is the most shallow place right here.
We're gonna duck on it.
Huh?
And duck. I'm gonna get the garbage out.
It doesn't feel right. I'm right here.
My ex was there. Oh, garbage out.
I want you to be This is another tube, and it makes you float. Just hold on to my hand and you'll float. Let your feet go and your hands go, and I've got you. This will hold you. You'll float.
This one.
There, he'll hold you.
Well, hello, Vicky Willis. What are you doing here? Oh, you're in a swimming pool.
Look at the ball.
Walk on out. You float. Yeah, just like Lee did last night.
Yes.
Go ahead and do it like Lee did. That's
And
right.
This is the first time.
You're doing a good job. Just walk on down.
Go get it. Go get it.
Hey, you're doing a good job. Now sit down. Sit down. And you can't sit. You can't sit.
Just go
As
float.
hard as you want to, you can't sit. No matter how hard you try, you can't sit down. Try it. Try to sit down for Daddy. I'll hold your hand. Try to sit down. You can't sit. You can't sit.
This is what is.
No, you can. You like that?
Are you cold?
Take this off.
No, we leave it
Yeah, we
on.
leave that on. Go on out to Mama.
Kick your feet and come on out.
Again.
Oh, you can't hold my hand. If you want to come back, you just say, Daddy, come back.
That is just. I don't not believe it.
You don't believe it?
It's just deep.
It's not too deep. Hold my hand and sit down. Just sit. Just sit down. Go ahead, sit down. Sit down. Sit. Sit. You can't sit. What you think? Want me to bring you back?
Hold on to the edge of the pool.
Want me to bring you back?
Put your hands on the edge of the pool.
No, I'm holding Mickey's hand.
You're holding them.
You want me to bring you back?
Yeah.
Okay. Back we come. What you think about that? You believe it?
No.
You believe it?
No, I don't.
She believes. She believes. Go ahead, Mama. You see if you can get Vicky in that boat.
Kick those feet. 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 It's okay. Just take your hands and go like this. Why? You drowned it? I think that was Silas Mona's routine.
See if you can get Vicky in that boat. Push that boat right on up there, Mama.
I think Vicky's very cold. You cold? Okay, it's all right. Okay, sit on that step. No, just that helps you float.
Betty, push that boat on up there. Right next to her so she can get in it.
Can you climb in the boat? And I'll push you around. Huh? You're too little for the boat?
Get in that boat.
I think I'm too big. Is it? But Lee's little like you are. Yeah. No?
Well, hello, Vicky Willis. Are you going to get in that boat? I will help you. You don't want to get in the boat? Oh, you can't fall out of that boat. It's too deep. Put your foot up here. So, Vicky, right beside Vicky. Here, get in that boat for me. Oh, please. Okay. You want to walk out and see if you can sit down again? Come on, hold my hand and see if you can sit down. No? Well, we might as well get out of the swimming pool because you're just getting cold and you're not swimming. You could be in a bathtub. The fun part of a swimming pool is you get out of the water and you don't want to do that. So we might as well go inside. We'll get out in the water now. No, you're not. You're sitting down just like you are in a bathtub. Okay, good.
Hey, Daddy, where's your bathing suit?
It's inside.
Oh, Daddy, shame on you.
Go ahead and hold Mama's hand and see if you can sit down outside like you did me. See, you can't sit down. Give me your hand and let me see if you can sit down out here. Oh, come on.
It's
You're
okay.
not going anywhere.
It's okay.
We're not going to let anything happen to Vicky. I think it's too cold. Vicky, I think it's too cold and we better go in. Yeah. We'll come back out if it gets warm. No, it's too cold.
You sit right there.
What you have here recorded for posterity is Vicky Willis's first getting into a swimming pool. As you can see, it's been less than a great triumph for the swimming pool industry. Are you going to go out with Mama or not? Well, you hurry up and go or I'm going to cut the camera off and let's go inside. Okay? Okay, we go ahead and hold Mama's hand now. You have to hold Mama's hand. You don't trust Mama? I didn't think you did. You go on out a little bit further. No, come on, get off those steps.
We'll stand on the step.
You can't fall off, Vicky. We're here to make sure nothing happens to you, baby. Well, don't be afraid because we're not going to let anything happen to Vicky. We want her to have fun. Now go ahead and hold Mama's hand and walk on off there. Go ahead. Mama will do that as soon as you walk off there. Now get off that step and go on. Come on. going to do it, huh?
Yes.
We'll do it now because we don't have much more time. Mama, if you can't get Vicky to come off that step, let's take her out of the water and go down and do something else. Because Mama's getting real cold just standing there watching you. Go ahead. Mama, you better be a little bit more forceful. You can't have a child afraid of a swimming pool.
This is my first time. Stand on this step for me. Why? What will be wrong? No. You can stand right here. Come on. Stand right here with me. The sun's coming in. There's the sun. Stand right there on this step.
Vicky, are you going to get out any further? Betty,
No.
you say goodbye. Just a minute.
Goodbye. Say goodbye. 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 No, we're just telling the camera goodbye.
Now we're facing south at the front of the house at Forest Hill. The monoplane that you heard go over and can still hear faintly in the distance is probably being flown by Jimmy Cost, who flies up here almost every Sunday to see if the place is still here, and he usually buzzes us when he's here, but he didn't this time. Directly in front of me is the home of my half-first cousin, Roy Crawford, who has a 250-acre farm south and a little bit west of our place on the hill. We have 35 acres altogether up here. 12 and 9/10 of them are in the field to our south, and we characterize it as the South 40 because of the influence of the Ponderosa television program. The South 40 has a fish pond where we're going to take Victoria in a few minutes and let her catch her first fish, I hope. Right now it's about halfway plowed because we're going to sow wheat on 5 or 6 acres of it this winter, and the rest of it we always cut and keep mowed as a place for picnics and a place for people to have access to the pond, and many children have caught their first fish there, including 2 of our grandchildren, Jim and Elizabeth. We haven't been able to keep Lee still long enough to take him fishing yet, but he's been down there several times but hasn't caught any fish. Just to the center of my vision now, and roughly between the axis of the farm of Roy Crawford and our South 40, is the Baptist Church, which is one of the older churches in the county. And beyond it, you can see, if you turn your camera, maybe the spire of the Methodist Church, which is on Route 12, just slightly south of where this little access road, which is known as the Bluestone Conference Road, or Seminole Road, just south of this, about 200 yards, is the Methodist Church. Directly next to the Methodist Church, maybe within 100 yards of it, is a 2-story frame house that my father built in 1913 or some such time, and he was a country doctor at Forest Hill at that time. He had constructed 2 little outbuildings, one of which he used as an office, but it has now been destroyed. The home is still there and is still in good repair. I was born on the 2nd floor in the front room of that house, the front bedroom, in 1915 on March 25th. Here comes the monoplane again. About the only thing that I remember about the house at Forest Hill is that I had pneumonia when I was here. That is the home at Forest Hill where I was born. And when I was around 2 or 2.5 years old, I got out in the wintertime and found a rain barrel that was full of ice and chopped a hole in the ice and took a little swim and caught pneumonia. They tell me I was very sick, but of course I don't remember much about it. To my immediate right, and maybe 30 yards from where we're sitting, is the swimming pool that Anna Mae and I have built here about 4 years ago. It's 20 by 40. It's been quite a lot of trouble, but it's also been quite a lot of pleasure. And this summer, just back of the swimming pool, to the north of the swimming pool, and almost adjacent to it, we have converted what was a storage shed into a bathhouse, so that we now have a room out there where people can come in and go swimming and have a soft drink or a beer and change their clothes and have all of the facilities that they would have up here at the house. We did this for two or three reasons, one of which is the constant changing in this house. Constant clothes changing has led to a carpet problem, and also it has led to a privacy problem on the part of the young adolescent males and females who come up here. The little children, it doesn't make much difference. Grown children, the grown-ups, it doesn't make much difference, but adolescents are extremely shy about where they change their clothing, so we've fixed a place for them out there so that if it's necessary, if the boys can dress down there and the girls can dress up here.
Would you like to sign off now?
Just as well sign off now. That's about all I've got to say, really. The view here is, you'll see, I'm sure, when you pan around.
Let's pan around and you can get up and walk with us. Now let's go right
Okay.
along the horizon.
All
Just
right.
watch the way the camera's pointed.
All right, you're looking now toward Hinton, and it's a hazy day, but before you leave, I'm sure we'll get a picture of Spruce Knob, which is right over there. And I'm sorry, it's right back here. The sun rises about 15 degrees to your right, about where you're facing now is due east, and the sun rises there at the ungodly hour of 4 or 4:30 in the morning in the summer, and comes in our
I would have
window.
seen the sunrise maybe once in 2 years.
Our bedroom window, the sun hits it, and that, of course, usually wakes us up pretty early in the summertime. The house faces south, and all of the front of the house practically is glass, so that it's very easy to heat the house in the wintertime if it's a sunny day, because the sun hits those windows from daylight until dark.
As I'm looking through the camera, everywhere we're looking down. How high are we?
I don't know the elevation here.
Are we on top of a mountain or on
No,
top of a hill?
No, we're on top of a hill. The mountain is back of us, north of us, and it's considerably higher than we are now.
Looking from this direction, though, it looks like everything is down below you.
It is below you for the first 500 yards, but after that, if you notice, the church elevation over there is not a great deal less than ours. And there's a hill almost immediately to your south, which you are almost facing now. And if you can see it, there's a picnic table on that hill, and that's owned by a gentleman who lives in a farm which is behind or beyond Mr. Crawford's farm, and you'll come to it in a few minutes, Bud Lowe.
I'm at the farm down there now.
Okay, now that's Roy's farm that you're looking at now, the white frame house. A beautifully kept farm, and has been a prize winning farm several different times with the 4-H people and the state folks who come in here and examine farms. Now, directly above his house, to his south, and a little bit, well, almost directly to his south, a little bit east maybe, there is a hill which Bud Lowe says is higher than our hill here, but he's wrong. We had them both measured one time, and we're about 11 feet higher here than that hill, but I don't remember the altitude of either place. Now, as you go on toward the west, as you pan around, you are now looking and may see some cars on the road on Route 12. You see a little fish pond over there, and then just beyond that, Route 12 runs east and west, and as it goes east, of course, it goes to Peterstown and toward Virginia. As it goes, it's called north and south, and as it goes south, it goes to Peterstown. As it goes north, it goes to Hinton. The farm that you're looking at now, you've gone a little bit beyond Bud Lowe's farm, but you're looking at one of his hilltops, and that again is one of the show places as far as county farms are concerned. Now you're coming into the area where you're looking into Virginia. The last mountain you see over there is Peters Mountain, and Peters Mountain range goes almost clear around here.
I'm looking at that mountain right
Yes.
up there.
Well, now that little, I don't know the name of that little knob there, but beyond that is the state of Virginia, south of us here. And you can see, even today, a hazy day, you can see the third mountain range, and that's the top of Peters Mountain. As a crow flies, that's only between 5 and 8 miles from here, depending on which part of the mountain you hit.
Barely see it.
Mhm.
Barely see it.
Driving, it takes about, I think, 12 miles to get to Peterstown, 12 or 14, and that is essentially the Virginia border. Rich Creek is just beyond, is the first town that you hit in Virginia.
Granny was born in Rich Creek. No,
No, she was born Richland, and that's in Tazewell County. Rich Creek is in Giles County.
Well, I've only lived in Virginia all my life.
Now, back of us, to your right from where you're standing and north of us, is New River over the mountain. It's only a few miles to New River. They're pretty rough miles, but of course they're good roads, very narrow and winding roads. But New River flows north, one of the few rivers you're one of the only, or maybe I'm told the only river in the eastern United States that flows north. And it comes from that gorge that you can see beyond this mountain and flows in that direction north to Hinton. It originates in North Carolina, and it flows into the Kanawha River and Gully Bridge. The Kanawha River eventually flows into the Ohio, and the Ohio then into the Mississippi. Now, we're standing on a place where they say that if a drop of water falls on this hill, half of it can go into New River, and the other half into Greenbrier River, which is over here.
Where's the Indian Trail?
The Indian Trail ran through Roy Crawford's farm and right across his farm there. This old road is the Indian Trail, down below these pine trees, and right across what we call our North 40, and on across the hill here into the Hutchison place, and went into Greenbrier River.
That's part of the Appalachian?
We don't know.
All right. It was an Indian Trail, just don't know.
All we know is it was an Indian Trail, and it was the first road through here.
Okay. With that, we will pick up once again fishing.
Fine. We'll go down to the pond and go fishing. Okay, now, Vicki, I'm going to toss this out for you. And we'll see if the fish will bite that grass. Right? Hold on to this. Hold on to it. That's it. Hold on to it. Okay.
Maybe we can put it up there.
Now, let me show you what to do when you get a bite. You see this? See this? Turn it.
I bet she ain't going to this one.
Keep turning.
I bet she ends up in a pond with her.
That's fine. Just pull it in. Toss it out again, because we didn't get a bite there.
He didn't get one. What is this getting?
You hold on to it here. Hold on to it for me.
I don't want to be falling away from me.
Now, don't turn it. Yes, hold it. Just hold it.
Could be the American sportsman.
Suppose this could be one of those days when the fish don't bite at all.
What is this? The see the Star Wars?
Wind it in there. That's it. Wind it in for me.
What is this?
That's it. Just wind it. Wind it in. That's it, girl.
What is this? What is this?
I told you to see him there.
Let's throw it out here. Look out there.
Did she catch any?
Not yet. Okay,
She's
honey.
not
Get ready to
going to
wind.
catch any.
Where are
Did
you?
you hold me up?
There you are.
Lee, why don't you go over there and help them? Maybe they need your help.
Don't wind yet. Don't wind yet. Wait a minute. You need some.
Can I help you? I think we need some help.
We need something, Lee. I don't know what it is. You haven't told me a fish yet, have you?
Can I help you?
Yeah, you can tell the fish to bite. You talk to the fish and see if they'll bite.
Bite! Come
Yeah,
on,
boy.
bite!
Yeah, tell them. Tell them to.
Come on and bite the fish, Vinny.
Tell them that.
Bite it!
Tell them we haven't got all day. Tell them bite, doggone it.
Bite, doggone it!
Okay. Okay. Somebody might catch me a fresh grasshopper if you're good at catching grasshoppers.
Can I catch
from here?
Yes, sir.
I'm from the hospital, and I believe you ordered a fresh grasshopper.
Thank you very much. Let's see, let's take this one off. I haven't even seen it. Here's the head.
I want to sit on top of it.
Oh, what a fish one of these.
That ain't cool.
Can I get one?
You see that grasshopper on top of the water there? You see that fish catch him?
I'm going to do the last one, and then the fish will bite. The fish almost bite. Ow.
Hey, get him, honey. Oh, we missed it. We missed it. We got our grasshopper. We got our grasshopper. This is from the man from the hospital. There's a fish out there that's a thief.
I bet
You
it's
see
hard.
what he did? He cleaned it off perfectly. Did you catch a grasshopper, Lee? Are there any of those little flies in that tackle box?
Daddy, why don't you go take a look?
Just bring the tackle box down here and it'll tell us.
Look at that spider. It's got some green. Come here. Let's get that. Get it out the air. Oh. There's a tackle box. Let's go see that. Let's go see the tackle box again. Now up there, that was the tackle box is.
Please fill that. Wait a minute.
You're on.
Daddy caught one!
Okay, that's Victoria. Bring it in.
I'm gonna get one.
Here, there's a fish on there, Vicky. Vicky, reel this fish in here.
Okay.
Atta girl. You still on there? Yeah, come on. Come on. Right there.
Now lift him up.
Come on, Vicky.
Grass.
Here we go.
Come on, Ken.
Here we go. Keep on. There's Vicky's first fish. There we go. Look.
Let her hold the rod now. Get a picture.
There you are, Vicky.
Here, honey, you hold the rod. Hold the rod. That's it.
Okay.
Now
Here we
smile.
go.
Lee, move this way just a little bit and then you can fish. Okay? Look at that big fish.
That's
Isn't he
little.
pretty? Look at that big fish.
It's little.
Okay, now you want to take him off? Let's take him off. Mike, can you get him off without hurting him?
What do you use for that?
That's a piece of an old worm. That's fine. I didn't know that was in there. Where'd you find it?
You want to let Vicky look at the fish and Lee?
Okay.
Is it there now?
Watch him. He'll jump right off and get back in the water. See, there's your little fish. That's a little bluegill. See how blue his gills are? See him?
Elizabeth, you want to move just a little bit to the right?
Up here, sweetheart.
See him, Lee?
Now let
Little
me
bluegill.
catch one.
Okay.
Okay. What's
All
that
right,
look
Mike,
at?
you had such good luck with him. Maybe the third one.
Here?
Okay.
Dad, I know how to catch them.
Okay, well,
Now go throw this one
let's
back.
see if we can get Lee to catch one here.
There you go.
Okay, Lee. Here's your first fish, boy.
Oh, they like that stuff, huh?
Right now.
What are you feeding them?
Artificial worm. I didn't know they were in there.
I bet that's good. When we get, when they start up.
Okay, Lee, you're going to get
Grasshopper
fish in
scarce
just a
in
second.
September. What in the world happened to him?
Hey, Vicky. No.
Mike, are you using some sort of special training that you got in your residency for catching these fish?
No, work one. Just one.
No. He got me bit. He busted me.
I'm throwing it out too far. I think there's a fish right over there on the right. Let's try this worm one more time and we'll let Granddaddy take over.
Well, you catch him. I don't want the children to catch him. I'm not interested in fish.
You mean you're not doing this for dinner?
No, sir.
You eat
Got my
fish,
dinner.
Friday.
Vicky, you tell that fish to eat that worm.
Hey, fish, eat that worm. Hey, fish, eat that worm.
Michael will use a different approach. He'll say, fish, don't eat that worm unless you really need it.
I think I see one coming after it.
Exasperating, ain't it?
One more time here.
Wait a minute, you got some grass on there.
Well, fish gotta be able to see it. Okay.
Oh, that's the spot. My goodness, there he goes. Come on, fish, hit it. There wouldn't be a little float in there, would there?
Hey, Dad, get a tackle, please. Get him, Dad.
Like this. Here we go. Ah, just come back here.
Did you hit your face?
He's right here. Ah! He wants that worm bad.
What do you charge for this, Mike?
Whatever it is, it isn't enough.
I will get that. That fish really wants that worm.
This has become personal now.
Me and the fish here.
Now, you're in the grass with your worm. You're going to have a problem there.
Okay, that fish just wants this worm real bad here. Come on,
Sure.
Ted. Come on, Ted.
Gotta get it.
That's old fighter, Mike. You're not going to get him. He's
We-
about 2.5 inches long.
We can get that fish here in a minute.
Somebody got hold of Mike's belt in case that thing pulls him in?
Come on, fish. Right there.
Alright, Daddy, gotta get it.
Are you erasing from other stuff you've done?
Puppy dog, you're a good dog.
Yeah, fish.
Vicky, tell that fish to eat that worm.
Hey, fish, eat that worm. I'm make it catch a flower.
Buford's got a grasshopper.
Okay, my last try here.
Well, no, you fish with the grasshopper. You've had better luck than I have. Let's
Right,
take the
hit
worm.
it again, hit it again.
I'm afraid he's so small he can't get his mouth. Okay, now let. Oh, it's a nice little bass. Now let.
Okay, let's make sure he's on there.
He's on.
Okay, here we go. Okay,
Okay, reel it in, Lee.
Lee, we got a bass there. There, boy, fight him. Pull it in now. No, that's the wrong way. This way, Lee. Pull it in.
He's got his rod down, Mike. You're going the wrong way, Lee, honey. You're going the wrong way.
Here we go. Bring that bass in here.
That's the way.
Come on, Lee, it's a fighter. Pull him in
Lift
here.
him up. Lift
Here we,
him up.
here we go. Ah, don't want to break the rod.
Don't break the rod. Just hold it in the grass.
There we go.
There we are.
Wow!
Okay, now let Lee hold it. Here,
You wanna hold the fish,
Take
Lee?
this grass.
Yeah, I want to look at it.
Okay.
That fish is big.
There you go. That's a pretty good little bass.
Okay, now hold the rod, Lee. Just let Lee hold the rod.
Here you go.
Now get my picture. Now get my picture. How about that?
That is big.
Oh, that's a big one. That's
You
a
want to
whopper.
touch him, Lee?
That's a
That is a
golly
big,
whopper.
big
Now
one,
you
big.
want to take him off the line for me?
Okay, let's get him off the hook and let Lee hold him here a minute.
That is big.
That's a golly whopper.
I fell on
Now, let's
my
go.
butt.
Still got the worm.
Yeah. You want to hold him, Lee? Might get that. Might bite you.
Buford, you want to move back a step?
You're tangled in. You want to hold him?
No.
Want me to throw him away?
No, I want to eat him.
You want to eat him?
Yeah.
If you clean him, you can eat him.
Want to throw him away?
That's a field mail. She'll bring us lots of fish next year. Okay.
You want to try again here?
Yes, sir. You're doing fine.
Okay.
You
Dad,
are doing
catch
fine.
me another fish. Catch me another fish.
Okay. Here we go.
Let's eat it.
You gonna eat that fish or you gonna cook it first?
Cook it first.
Okay.
Did you get good pictures of both of them, you think?
Well, that's what Liv's
I
doing
think
here.
so.
One more cast, sweetheart. And I'll let you take over after that.
Well, I'm not particularly interested in taking over. As long as you're happy, you just keep the children happy. That's what we came down here to do.
That was a good fish.
Well, what you're looking at through here, if you're curious, is a little TV set.
Can I catch one?
You have to put your eye pretty close to it.
Uh-huh, yeah.
But you're seeing in black and white what you're doing on.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You know, it distresses me to look at Mike and realize that I look like that.
Why?
Well, he's so ugly, and he looks so much like me.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's
And I don't realize it, don't ever realize it until I do something like this. But the shape of his head, his back, his shoulders.
sweetheart. You do it this way. Like so. Reel it in slowly.
Really going
Oh,
to
I'd
go
like
back up to grandmother.
I'd like to have a camera and a recording of some of the misadventures that I had with you two when you were learning to fish.
Mike, that's pretty rough work, isn't it? I saw you sweating over there.
Pretty warm here today.
Okay, do you have anything for the fishermen of America you'd like to say right now about this?
Well, if you throw the right bait where the fish are and they're hungry, you'll catch the fish.
You got a hook.
If you got a hook.
Okay, would you like to say goodbye, Mike?
Goodbye.
Okay, we're here at the pond of Dr. Buford McNear of Hinton, West Virginia. This pond, one of the foremost bass catching areas in the United States, is currently being fished by Michael McNear. Michael is a world-class bass fisherman, as you can tell. The pond itself is located right beneath the country home of Dr. McNear that you saw earlier. It consists of about 300 acres of water, ranging in a depth of 50 to 300 feet deep. This pond itself has fish ranging in size from small minnows to rumors of a great white shark. Look at the form, ladies and gentlemen, you saw on that cast from Dr. McNear. Look at the concentration. This is a fisherman, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fisherman. Look at that. Look at it. He's got something. He's got something. No. That was a false alarm. But he doesn't give up. Look at that form once again. Look at that. Look at that. Truly a professional at work.
Can I get on the back?
See, Dr. McNear is out there again. Let's look at this form. Okay, it looks like it's going to be another award-winning afternoon for the McNear family on their home pond. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we end another edition of the American Sportsman. Next week, we'll pick up grasshopper hunting and butterfly snapping. You're on television.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Can't believe it.
What?
Now you can tell me about Tazewell, Virginia.
What did he
Well, I'll tell you, Buzz, I was born over at Tazewell, Virginia. That's just real close to Bluefield. I don't remember really living there because we moved to Johnson City. And my father was a doctor. He practiced medicine in Tazewell, also in Johnson City. And he was a very prominent doctor in his day. I don't know what he'd be right now, but anyway, he was very prominent in his day. And
No.
Vicky, please let
he
us
got
do
his
this.
doctor's degree in Lexington, Kentucky, University of Lexington. And Mama was born and raised in Tazewell.
No.
You were born in Richlands,
Yes,
or Rich Creek,
Richlands.
Richlands.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then moved to Tazewell when you were.
Yeah, well, it's right close together.
Yeah.
It's just the same as Bell Point is from here, just going back and forth. That's
Yeah.
all the difference there is in it. Just a little place called Richlands. And you come through Bell Point down here, you see.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I know.
the way it is.
I've forgotten all the names, but
Yeah,
Richlands is right outside Tazewell.
yeah. And of course, I grew up in Johnson City, went to school there, and then I went to Carson Newman College.
When you were in your father was a doctor
Yes.
in originally Tazewell then,
Oh, yes.
and then he practiced
Moved
in
back. I
Johnson
went down to Johnson City.
City.
My father was from North Carolina,
I didn't know that either. Where?
Boone,
Boone?
Boone,
Sure, I know where
North
Boone
Carolina. Now, he was one of the instigators of the college that is there now. And in his day, that's how many years, Buzz, it's been, that was his home, and there wasn't any more than a high school at that time. But it has grown into a university now. And they have a plaque there. I haven't seen it, but on the door or something of the names of the ones that helped to get this school there.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. P.P. Hayes' name is on it, your grandfather.
Who was the doctor that was a doctor in the Civil War?
Civil War.
Yeah, there's somebody in our family, there's only one physician in our family that was ever in the Civil War, and he was a doctor. And I don't know whose side of the family it was.
Can't think at the moment.
I know I heard Mother talk about him, but I was the first person on our side of the family or something like that that had been in the Army since the Civil War.
Well, my father was in the Army when he was just 16 or 17 years old. The war was over.
War was over then?
Well, he wasn't in there any longer than that.
Oh,
He was too young to,
they found him, huh?
huh?
They found out he was too young?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then, and when he and Mama were married, he taught school in Tazewell. He was a school teacher then. And then he decided he studied medicine after his marriage.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Uh-huh. And Lexington, he went to Lexington University in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Buzz, I had a little gold medal, just about that long, that my father won for the high, I'll say it this way, high grades that he made, you know. Oh, he was smart. And Vivian had it, got it some way or other. You remember Vivian?
Yeah.
Got it, wanted to show it to somebody, and I was big enough crazy to let her have it to show it, and I have never seen that
Never
little
got it
gold
back.
medal yet. And I'd give my arm for it almost.
Yeah.
It was a real thin little gold medal. And he was so proud of it. Now, I'd love for you to have it. I'd love for Michael or somebody like that to have it.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah.
I'll never see it.
Gone too long. Oh,
Well, then he
finished medicine and everything and practiced there in Tazewell. And then I told you he practiced there several years and then moved to Johnson City.
You met Granddaddy when you were going to Carson Newman College. When you were living in Johnson City.
Oh yes. Let's see.
Oh, sexy girl.
Look who's here, Elsie.
Well, hello, Vicky.
I'm Benedict.
You what?
I'm Benedict.
And let's see, what was I talking about then?
Talking about meeting Granddaddy.
Oh, I came home. I went to school in
There,
September
toys?
to Carson Newman College.
Mm-hmm.
I came home at Christmas time. And of course, all the crowd I went with, the girls and all, met me at the train. Well, Heine was in the crowd. I hadn't met him yet, but I met him that night. I think the train got in there around 6 or 7 o'clock, and there was about a dozen or more down there, you know. And I had a funny thing about it. When you went to college, used to, when you went out on the street or come home, you had this four-cornered cap, three-cornered, with a tassel hanging down, like the wear at graduations now, of your graduation.
Oh, you wore that all the time when you...
Yeah, when you went out, you wore it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the gown, those great big long sleeves are hanging down here. We wore that over the top of our coat in the wintertime.
Do you know that?
And everybody was happy, and Heine was in the crowd. Well, all the crowd went over at my house from the train. Mama had something to eat for about a dozen or more, and we had a good time, and Heine was there. Well, next morning before I got up, he called and wanted to know if I had a date or anything. He'd like to have a date that evening. I didn't, of course. And every single night that I was home during the holidays, we had a date.
He put quite a rush on.
I've got a letter there in the drawer that he wrote me. You'll die laughing about it. I'll get it.
Here she is. Here
Elsie, go make you a sandwich
I'm
now.
going to. She wants to see Mary.
And there's bacon there on the stove.
I see it.
And so when I went back to school, there was a letter went down on the same train that I did. Of course, we traveled by train then.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a letter from him every day, every day. And Sid, my younger brother next to me, he was going to school at, what's the name of that school? A university right out of Knoxville. Can't think of it right now, but he was there in school, and I was in school at Carson Newman. Well, one Friday afternoon, they had come up and told me that I had a visitor in the parlor, as they called it then. And so I went down the parlor, and Sid was sitting there with a suitcase beside of him. He said, "Marge, I just thought I'd come by. I thought maybe you..." He was homesick. Oh, he was so homesick he didn't know what to do. And he thought he'd go home for the weekend. I said, "No, I'm not going home because I know I'll have to come back." And he did. He went and stayed Saturday and Sunday, come back through on Monday. Well, what's the name of that university there?
I don't have the faintest idea.
Well, anyway, and so he went back to school, and he and Frank both was over there in school, and I was at Carson Newman. And you passed through Jefferson City, that's where I was, going to their school. And, well, go back to Heine, and then I come home in June, and dated all summer nearly and all, and I went back to school, come home at Christmas again, and I didn't go back. We got married.
Never finished school at all?
No, I had 2 years back.
Mm-hmm.
College.
Where did y'all move after you were
When
married?
I got married,
Mm-hmm.
stayed in Johnson City.
Stayed in Johnson City? Because I know that Mother's talked about some of the places that y'all lived when she was a little
Oh,
girl.
after we was married,
Yeah.
we moved from place to place, my Lord. This railroad, you went from everywhere.
Was that the C&O at that time? Or was
No, Heine was working for the Virginian Railroad at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, how many places have we lived? We lived in Irwin, Tennessee. Fred was born in Irwin.
Okay.
And then where did we go from there? well, railroading was bad. Hiney was cut off for a while, and went back to Johnson City. It was just 20 miles from Irwin down to Johnson City. So went back there, and then he was called back to the railroad in Princeton.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, that's a big jump. I thought I was going to the...
Have any lunch. Can I make her a sandwich?
And so from Princeton, then, let's see, is that the way of it? It's been so long.
There was some town with a real funny name that Mother told me about y'all lived in for a while. Some town with a real funny name that y'all lived in. I can't remember the name of
Oh,
it.
yes, and I'll come to those in a minute. Let's see, we went to, no, we moved from Johnson City, I think, to Roanoke. We lived in Roanoke about 4 or 5 years. And Frank, you know who he is, he was vice president of the Virginian Railroad.
I didn't know that.
And so he wanted us to come there. We went to Roanoke first, and then Frank was transferred to Norfolk, Virginia. We moved to Norfolk and stayed 3 or 4 years.
I knew that you'd been in Norfolk for a while, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And then, let's see. No, that. We moved from Princeton over here for the C&O, and Hiney was with the Virginian, the road that Frank was with. That was it. And I hadn't gone over that stuff in so long till I can't get it. And so we, I guess the Princeton. And from Princeton to Roanoke. Oh, that's not right either. Went from Roanoke to Princeton, that was it. And from Princeton over here. But while we were in Princeton, we lived in 2 or 3 little coal camps down from Princeton. And the children was getting ready for school and all. We didn't want them to go to school down there, so we went up to Princeton. But I will head them a story too. We moved from Johnson City to Coalwood, West Virginia, and Hiney had charge of a great big store over there. He was cut off of the railroad. You know how they do, take them off and on. That was it. And so we lived in Coalwood 5 years or more. Ruth was a baby. Just scooting around on the floor, about 1.5 years old. And we were there. And then, now I'm getting back to where it is. And we moved, Frank wanted us to move to Roanoke, that's it. And we moved there. Well, Hiney was cut off from the railroad there. Work got bad and all. And we moved to Princeton, that was it. And from Princeton all to these other little places.
When did you move to Hinton?
Oh, Lord, I've lived here 50 years.
Because I remember Hinton used to be a big central area for the railroad.
Oh, yes. Oh, Hinton is dead now. Oh, we used to have 5 and 6 and maybe more, most beautiful passenger trains through here every day. You go in, we'd go to Charleston, Huntington, spend the day and come back. Beautiful trains.
I forgot. Granddaddy told me once, but he had like 20 or 30 trains a day or something like that. Coal trains.
Oh, yes, and coal trains, but and these passenger trains. Well, you and your friends could go down to Charleston and shop for 3 or 4 hours or the day and come back home.
Yeah, I guess.
And now we don't have one except one train each way, one going to east and one west. And there was 500 or 600 shopmen down here of every kind. And you know how many is down there now? 12. Hinton is dead as 4 o'clock. You can't imagine, you just, unless you was here and seen how everything was just flourishing, you know, and all, and now it's nothing.
Well, Anna Mae
Anna Mae was 3 years old when we moved to Hinton.
Okay, that's right. So she wasn't born in Hinton then?
No, she was born in Princeton.
Born in Princeton, okay.
Hmm.
And
Oh, we've lived in so many little old places. Now, even Coldwood was a coal camp, but it was one of the nicest ones. We had the nicest time there because it was such nice people.
see, I don't even know what a coal camp was. I guess that wasn't a town. It was just
Well,
a mine or something.
yeah, well, we weren't where the miners were. They lived way down in a different section. And let's see, they had a superintendent of all of that, and higher ups had beautiful homes there, just the most modern homes you ever saw. And we had a real nice house there, and we had such a good time because the auditors, the bookkeepers, and those the great big offices, you know, they had the main offices there.
What year was that?
When was I over there?
Yeah, what year?
Oh, Buzz, I can't tell you.
Must have been in the 20s.
I guess Ruth was about 5 or 6 years old. We lived there about 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the houses, they had superintendents of these mines and everything, you know, and the most beautiful homes. And we had the best time over there because there was such, in high school, they had a high school and a bank and one of those big commissaries they called them at that time. And Heine had charge. He wasn't with the railroad there. He was cut off from the railroad, and they got this job. And he had charge of this great big store. They called it a commissary. They had everything in it, everything.
We're going to cut this off and wait for Elsie to come back.
Lord, I don't
Yeah.
know.
She should be back here in a few minutes. There. You're on.
What do you want me to talk about, for instance? I'll tell you what I want.
What a great day you've had so far.
What a great day I've had so far. Well, it seems like it started yesterday.
I don't know if I'm in the camera. I can't stand to take pictures and not be in the camera. Can I sit
Okay.
beside you?
Yeah.
I like to be in. Hi.
Huh?
That's what Johnny Carson goes through every night, talking to us so he wins.
That's right.
Hmm.
All right, the first thing I want to talk to you about, I want you to go with me somewhere in the area and help me pick out a brand new car. I'm sick of this wreck that I have fixed every 2 weeks after.
Probably one of the things I do best is spend other people's money.
Well, fine, fine, okay. I don't want anything 4 on the floor or 6 on the floor or any of that sort of thing. No race cars, no fancy.
I outgrew that.
Yeah, I remember your MG, yeah. I thought I was riding on the street. A mid-size with power steering, power brake, not a big car, not a little car.
Air conditioning.
Everything.
Got to have air conditioning.
Air conditioning, heat radio, and I want, if possible, cloth upholstery like it's in my
Very
old car
good.
out here.
Doesn't burn quite as bad in the hot weather.
And the only place around here that they have a Chrysler dealership and a Ford dealership and a GM dealership.
Chrysler just introduced the K cars.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chrysler does not have them.
Uh-oh.
He's gone. All he deals in now is used and repairs. He is doing this bad time. He went out of business.
Several
But-
of them had. 2
yeah.
in Richmond.
Yeah. So it's only Ford and GM. There's not even American Motors here.
That's, American Motors only has 1 new car out anyway.
Yeah, well, I want an 80 if possible. I don't care. I don't want to wait 6 weeks for them to haul it in here from.
Well, you get your best buys when you get the ones off the showroom.
Well, I hope so. And I don't expect to get anything much out of what I have, but it's one of the best engines in any, or motors, or whatever you call them, in any car. They don't make them that way anymore, I've been told.
Probably right.
But it's the accessories.
It's only one problem.
that Go what?
Everything else falls apart. The
That's
engine
it.
keeps going.
That's it. And all the accessories go one every day now. I've had new air conditioning put in. I turned it on this morning, enough the hot air came
You
out.
want a Japanese-made car?
I do not.
Very interesting. We do not either. We looked at them and discounted them.
No, I do not. I want a foreign car of any kind. I want an American-made car. Now, I saw one on a parking lot that I liked the looks of the other day, and it's a Plymouth Triumph.
Plymouth Triumph, I don't know that.
And I'm not sure, but I do not want a 4-cylinder car. I want a 6-cylinder car. Of course, with steel-belted radial tires.
The best car that I know of personally, that I know somebody who bought one that really liked it, was some type of Oldsmobile.
Yes.
And it was, Daddy knows the name because it's one of the doctors told Dad about it. And he's crazy about it. He gets about 25 miles per gallon, and very comfortable. Nice looking car too.
Well, good. GM would have that.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it. Oldsmobile something.
Yeah.
Wasn't a Cutlass.
So if you got a few hours to spare.
We went looking at cars in Richmond about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I just got frustrated. The only thing that was going were Japanese cars. And we looked at them and saw one that was acceptable, but the guy wouldn't make any deal on it, so we didn't buy anything. We just walked away.
Well, I don't expect a big deal on my car, but if all the accessories worked, I'd have a wonderful.
You won't get a good deal on your car.
Well, I may have to have it hauled away or whatever they do.
How old's that car?
It's a 72. It's 47,000 miles.
Oh, that's a youngster.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's got a wonderful engine. It was banged up. And I just want a car that I feel safe in.
After all the accidents y'all have had up here this summer, I think that'll be an M69 battle tank.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know what kind of whether they give rebates here like they do on television everywhere else, like Charleston and Huntington and.
If the manufacturer's having one, they will be.
And Roanoke is full of places that you get $300, $400, $500, $600 rebate right off the field, right off the lot.
Experiences dictate that you want to buy the car as close as you can to where you live.
Well, that's true for.
Take them back and get little things fixed.
Right. So that's one project I have. I'm not going to let another Sunday come without a new car.
Another Sunday? That quick?
That quick.
You have made up your mind?
Yes, I have. I certainly have.
I hope we're going to be buying a car within the next 2 days, which is the way to do it.
Well, I bought this one in a couple of hours.
Oh, that's about the way to do it. You just say, I'm going to do it and do it.
If they have what I want,
we shall go
what I
looking.
need.
At this point,
I don't like bucket seats.
We will fade out of this. Fade out. And go on. Let's see. How about a close-up?
Oh, I take horrible pictures. Real horrible.
Okay, while I got you right there, tell us about Governor Rockefeller.
You mean Jay?
Jay, I think you met him.
I never met.
Was that Nelson?
I met Nelson. I never met Jay. But I have met Nelson and his first wife, 2 of his children, and a couple of more grandchildren. And I think they're a wonderful family. And I don't know how Jay could be from that family and be any different. Not because he's got money, but they were good, honest.
You know that it's you and Mike, it's you and Buford against Mike.
Well.
Michael, for some reason, seems to be an arch Moore fan.
That's right. I don't know why, but as far as I know, the Rockefellers, as a family, in and out of hospitals, and they're very, very courteous, very, very plain, ordinary people. You'd think there'd be anybody else walking in the hospital but a Rockefeller. Of course, they got the same treatment as any other patient. And they were very grateful for anything you do for them. They're just nice people all around. I can't say anything more about them. Real nice. And I was sorry to hear that he died. Very sorry. Nelson.
Now, there's a whole lot of people sorry to hear Nelson Rockefeller died.
Yeah.
Of course, they tried to make a political scandal out of it. Didn't
Trying
work.
to make scandals, yes.
Didn't work.
No.
Oddly enough, it
No.
didn't work. Today's era, when they make a scandal out of everything, that one failed was interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know Jay, but he appears to me to be one of the Rockefellers. Even looks like them. to an extent, and I like him.
He's a Republican.
He's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat.
Oh yeah,
What's Arch Moore?
Republican.
Republican.
Now, Jay Rockefeller split from the party, Republican. The rest of them are all Republicans.
That's when, that must have been about the same time Byrd split from the Democrats.
Yeah. But I think he's done a lot for the state.
I'm going to let you off the hook, Elsie.
Okay,
You ready to get off the hook?
I'm ready.
You're off the hook.
That will help me a whole lot. Right.
You're on.
All right. The other day when you were doing Buford, first thing he gave was all the historical part about Forest Hill and about this house. He never did mention what we call it or why we call it that, or everything he said was historical or factual. I have the things that actually happened with a little romance thrown in. The name of this house is 220-2, T-O-O.
T-O-O.
Right. And that is because downtown the house number is 220 Ballinger Street. We wanted this to be home too, so we called it 220-200. And of course that confuses everyone when we tell them where we live. They're looking for house numbers like that, and it's rather difficult to find. But he gave you all of the northeast, northwest, and southwest and the weather conditions. The top of this hill I had wanted for a long, long time, especially for a swimming pool and eventually a little putting green, something of that sort, and a place to have all of our relatives and friends. So far, Betty and Buzz and Vicki are the only ones to take advantage of it, but that makes it nicer. But the thing he didn't tell you about the swimming pool, the little moonlight nights of skinny dipping, believe it or not.
We suspected.
They are quite nice. And many nights around 11 or 12 o'clock, you'll see two white terry cloth robes right on the edge of the pool. And some nights I come out in a robe dragging the ground, and he comes out in one above his ankles. But it's fun. And the golf court. As Lee calls it, golf court. We have now learned to say golf cart. Has been a lot of fun too. So this is really a fun place for everybody. The only thing is, there's not enough people to come to see us.
Where's your one-hole putting green?
Well, we're hoping to put it in the back. We have the directions on it. I didn't realize that it had to be banked so much, and it can't use fill dirt. It has to be a certain kind of dirt with a certain type of grass seed, and just one little pitch and putt with a green. It turns out to be quite a bit of work, but I think we'll eventually get to it if I can stay out of automobiles long enough, and that will be a really fun thing, I think, to do. And of course Buford would like a tennis court, but it's entirely too windy. I don't play tennis. I don't play tennis, so it's much too windy up here.
We had the
That takes care
hurricane
of
winds
that.
come through last night. That would have a lot of fun with the tennis ball, I'm sure.
Well, we brought the ping pong table up here and put it up, and Buford had the paddle poised to hit it, and the wind just took the ball that way. He didn't even have a chance to hit it. So that's the story of the ping pong. But there are a lot of things that we hope to add in time. Mainly the great room, the family room, all-purpose room, or whatever, right off the kitchen. And I think that'll be nice. Don't you think it'd be nice, Vicki, if we had another room? Sure you do.
Not a lollipop.
She only wants lollipops.
Lollipops. Well, if we had a whole room, we could have a whole room of lollipops.
You were at 220 Ballinger Street up until 5 years ago,
Yes.
and then this must seem like the
A
world.
lollipop.
Yes, we have a little more space.
We didn't take any pictures of 220. We got Granny and Elsie in one of the rooms, but
Oh,
it was too dark to really go through the whole
Yeah.
house. So,
well, that would take a while.
yes.
It'd take a lot of film. When we first came up here, I felt gee, there's a lot of space until I started counting rooms. And down there are actually 23 rooms. And up here, there are actually 3.5. Telephone buzz.
Betty will get that.
Betty?
I will get the telephone.
I want you to say for posterity on the camera, was the area downstairs when we were here last year a swimming pool or not?
When you were here the last
Yeah, we were
time,
down in the basement. I told Betty that was a swimming pool,
that was a swimming pool.
and she won't believe it.
Yes.
She does not believe somebody had a swimming pool in there.
Oh yes, it had ceramic tile floor, and it was, the depth was at the deepest 5 feet, and it was really quite nice. At the time, Michael was too young to have a swimming pool in the house. We would have been worried. But now that he is older and gone, I think it'd be great to have it. But there's no way we can get it back. However, I figured out a nice sauna for that area, or some kind of a jacuzzi or something.
That would have been neat as a swim.
Oh, it would have been. You see, I was young and foolish at that time. Now I'm older and foolish. But I wish we had it. Really, it wouldn't be too much work. We still have the water tank, you know, the large one.
I come over and reminisce now. I get to get my own pictures.
Yes.
Bud,
Yes.
Elsie wants to talk to Anna Mae about tags.
Oh, we're going to fade out right now, hello, and go see about tags.
She needed, and said she was a very good patient. For which I'm grateful, because she can be very bad.
We interrupted the filming to get a stat report on tags.
Yes,
We
which
went to the vet today.
turned out to be bronchitis, and she's fine.
Chief had that, by the way, tracheo, whatever. it is.
Tracheo, some kind of pharyngitis.
Yeah, Chief had
And they did the test for the blood worms, which was negative. And they also gave her another booster that would be due in 2 weeks. And
Give them both.
and I think Tags won't know whether to sit down, lie down, or crawl when she gets home. She'll be so sore. But when you said it's about Tags, I just froze. They're going to keep her. She has distemper. She has whatever it is that she shouldn't have. And anyway, she's
Distemper
home.
is a form of pneumonia
Yeah.
that when the dog is full grown, usually comes out of it.
Well, she had had her shots for that, and but you know, always that. This is effective in 86%.
Yeah.
Okay, I figure that I'm in that other percent. I can't help it. I've always been that way. Like when children I have a stomach ache. It's her appendix, or you know, anything simple. I can't think little.
Well, we have to go back to 220 Ballinger Street.
Oh yes, 220
Now,
Ballinger
I have
Street.
to tell you that my earliest recollections go back to driving to Hinton.
Yeah.
We had a car. I remember the car. I don't remember it that well, but it was a 1948 Packard.
I remember it quite
And it
well.
was two-tone in color,
Mhm.
and one was maroon, and I can't remember what the other color
Beige.
was. Beige.
Mhm.
And I can remember that the only time that car was used, they have to remember I was 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
old, was to drive to Hinton, which was an 8-hour from Washington, D.C., an 8-hour trip. You took 2 or 3 days. That was like traveling cross country now.
And we would start looking for you about 10 minutes after you left Washington.
It took
Are they
until that-
coming?
There was no interstate highways. It was
No.
all 2-lane roads all the way to Hinton, and it took us a solid 8 hours, maybe the full day. I don't remember.
Up one mountain and down the
Yeah.
other. And when you weren't going up and down, you were going around.
Every small town between here and Washington, D.C., you went through.
All had traffic lights, and you always hit the red one, of course. Oh, I remember those days. We could hardly wait. That was the highlight of the year. The
And
Willises are coming.
the 220 Ballinger Street, which is the house downtown, I very distinctly remember Buford had a shooting range
Right.
downstairs. Now, the whole house has been remodeled, golly, I don't know how many years ago now.
Well, actually, it's been restored, not remodeled. We tried to keep it the same way. But he really did put a shooting range in the basement. And he had at one end of what was the swimming pool, and then the other end, of course, was the shooting area. And everyone in the neighborhood would What was the noise? You say, I don't know. What noise? I didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything last night.
No, but in the meantime, gunpowder was everywhere. But finally, we agreed that that shouldn't be.
That had to be in the 50s. That had
About,
to be,
yes.
I would guess 1952.
That
would be.
was when I talked him into no shooting range, nothing like that.
Well, I
in the
remember the
house.
year I came back up and you had redone the ceiling
Yeah,
and the shooting range had been turned into a storeroom.
right.
And
Which later became the first, what do you call it, step-down living room in the basement that's
Right.
ever been. Split-level basement.
you had a split level basement.
Right.
And when Betty came up and saw it the first time, I told her that that was a swimming pool. And
Yeah.
she, I don't think to this day believes that she was stepping
Well, the
down
wall,
into
of course, went clear across, and we cut enough out. We got all the steps because you went up the steps this way, and then you came down the steps into the water. So we took that all out and made that area into one end ping pong table and books, and the other area 2 or 3 little conversational groups.
Yeah.
And then we did the upper part and we put in a fireplace. We didn't have enough. We only had 11 fireplaces, so we thought we'd even it out.
They had to have 12.
12 fireplaces, 13 telephones at that time. Now we only have 15. And that's the reason I said when we go to Forest Hill, there will be 1 phone only, because we have 3 rooms only, and it would be stupid to have more phones. Well, from this house, from one point to the other point is 66 feet.
Seems longer. The way the
Much,
house is built.
much
It's-
longer. And if you're at the other end and you go to the phone at this end, you hear nothing but buzz, and it's over. But the telephone people were a little bit smarter than I. They put in plugs or jackets and then put false plates over them.
Mhm.
So when I surrender, I cannot do this any longer, let's buy phones, all they had to do was take the little plates off, and there they were. So it's, I've always had to eat my words about things that I'll say I will never do. I have always done everything I said I would never do.
Tell you something I noticed this time up more than I've ever seen it. Buford does not eat at exactly 6 o'clock anymore.
Oh, those days.
Buford
8?
used to eat at exactly 6 o'clock at night. I think that was-
Absolutely, 6 o'clock. The Angelus at the St. Patrick's Catholic Church, 6 o'clock it would ring. At 6 o'clock, if he were wherever he happened to be or where he had gone, he would drive in front of the house, get in the house before the bell stopped ringing, wash his hands, and he'd be at the table at 6 o'clock. Magic. Every night of his life. 6 o'clock. And up until we came up here, every day at exactly 10 of 12, we had lunch. And at exactly 8 o'clock, he had breakfast. Now we eat breakfast at 6 o'clock, lunch whenever it's convenient, and dinner whenever we can get it together. I mean, and after all, there's no more Carrie, there's no more Marcella. We're it. And
Carrie,
Carrie was with
the
us 20 years.
housekeeper that I also remember back from my very first trip.
Yes, Carrie was wonderful. She was with us 20 years, and then when she died, her daughter, Marcella, was with us 14 years.
Carrie died in 70?
No, a little before that, around 68 maybe,
68.
something like that. But she was really great. She spoiled Michael rotten. At least that's one thing we can blame it on. But then Marcella came, and she was really good too. But now, since downtown at 220, Buford could not get himself a glass of water. He didn't know where the glasses were. That's the truth. He could not make a peanut butter sandwich. He knew where, he absolutely knew where, he could stand in the middle of the floor and say, I need a glass. Where is it? Can I find a knife anywhere around here? And up here, this is his kitchen. I said, Buford, where's the bread knife? Or, Buford, where'd you put the mustard? He keeps this kitchen, and he has learned to cook some things very well. He can really do, he makes a wonderful omelet, and he stands over it, don't breathe. I don't want it to fall before anybody sees it. Of course, I'm the only person to see it. But
Well, up here, you could scream right loud and nobody'd hear you unless it was you.
that's right. But he enjoys cooking, and it's a side of him I had never known. He loves, if he had he could be content up here all day long to do little odd jobs that need to be done that a contractor or a carpenter wouldn't come out to do a little job like that. But if he had the time, he would learn to learn to do them. There's some things he can do, but he could cook. He could be totally content here for months and not leave this hill.
I mean, I think anybody could be totally content here for months.
He loves, the swimming pool was for me because of my arthritis. Who uses the pool all the time? Buford. He is never happier than when he's vacuuming that pool. And he gets the skimmers and he sees what he's caught that day and puts it out. And therefore, I have learned to say Buford's pool and Buford's pond and things that I thought he'd have such a little bit of interest in. In fact, I measured the distance from here to Willowwood to the country club. And it was going to be 2 and 6/10 miles longer. And that really bothered me because I thought he would be unhappy because he'd have to go that much longer to play golf. Since we've been up here 12 times in the 5 years, would take care of his golf.
You haven't go anymore?
No, I couldn't care less. I'd rather clean the pool, or I have some weeds I want to pull, or I want to work out back a little bit, and he just doesn't want to go.
We talked to Buford out on the landing or whatever you call it, but nobody. What is the shape of this house? Because I can't
It's
really.
hexagonal.
It's a hexagon.
Yeah.
With 2 wings, I guess, one off.
Yes.
2 corners of it.
And even the rooms, the bedrooms, if you look at it carefully, also are hexagonal.
Oh, really?
The distances are not the same, but it is hexagonal.
I know that you got the plan for this house out of a magazine or something that was supposed to be on a lake.
It's supposed to be on the lakefront. It was house beautiful. I'd had that little crumpled piece of paper, and after we didn't build across the road at the South 40, which was a modified A, we would be blown probably to Richmond with an A-frame on this mountain. But anyway, I kept that this house plan, and it was from House Beautiful. So I wrote them and told them that we were building this house on a mountain top instead of a lakefront, and of course it was a vacation house and it had no provisions for heating. So they suggested that we get a heating contractor, which we did. But then they wrote back and said, they put this on all the plans they sell, when you complete your house, send us a photo of the completed house. Well, of course I didn't. And they wrote back and asked for it, and it wasn't a form letter. And I told them that it had not been completed really yet, everything we wanted to do. So in about 6 months we got another letter. Has the house been completed? They would like to know what we had done with the interior. So I wrote back and said the interior is, well, majorly Oriental, and that we really hadn't completed that either. That still didn't stop the letters. They wanted to know the name of the heat pump, and if we had air conditioning, and how the window treatment, and several things. And I answered their questions, and then they wrote back and said, thank you very much. We would like to see someday a completed picture. Well, the oddest thing happened about 2 months ago. I was in a store and picked up House Beautiful and just started. I never can remember whether I've seen that one or not until I, thumbed through it, which I did. And it was something about vacation issue. And right in the middle it opened, and so help me, it had the exact picture of our pool house, and it had then been completed, the front of it. I could not believe it.
Somebody's watching.
I couldn't. It was just the very same thing. The lattice thing on the front and the roofing, everything was the same. And I looked at it, and then I got our old worn-out picture and looked at it, and there it was. So I kept looking through the magazine, and in the front of it
would you believe this same house was featured again?
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So they've got the two together now. So evidently enough people used the plan not on the lakefront that they thought it would go
You
again.
couldn't do any better than up here. You're so high and looking down on everything, you get windows.
Oh, when it snows up here, it is so pretty. The highest hill over there, when the moon is out, that's where they always have the sheep. And then the light from the church, the reflection will go, and the snowdrops, huge snow, and then the sheep. The whole thing looks like a Christmas card. And we have no trouble getting, with weather, getting right to our own driveway. We can get right there with absolutely no problem. But we can't get up our driveway.
Driveway.
Our driveway, 6 feet of snow will drift in our driveway when maybe an inch and a half has fallen everywhere else. The grass will be clear, everything, but all the snow will be in our driveway.
You said you'd had, what, a 9-10 foot drift?
Oh, yes, we have had. And the children came up and made igloos, made tunnels all the way through. It's amazing.
When, going back a couple of years, Buford once told me that the hardest years of a marriage were the first 2 years. He took care of that by being in China.
Well, they were the hardest.
He doesn't talk about his military, but I was in the Army for a couple of years. And I found it fascinating that he went from a first lieutenant to a lieutenant colonel in 4 years.
Yes.
Of course, the lieutenant colonel to colonel took a couple of years longer.
From lieutenant colonel to colonel took more years than we care to remember.
Well, he was in the reserves.
Yeah, in the reserve, but it was slow. And the horrible thing came. I mean, we thoroughly enjoyed the reserve. Of course, the
that was
Army.
a hobby.
Yes, that definitely was a hobby. And he was lucky. He was assigned to very good locations. We went. Now, if you'd say, would you like to go to Leavenworth, Kansas for a vacation? Everybody think you're crazy. But we went and had a wonderful time. And then we went to the War College at Carlisle for 2 years, for 2 summer sessions, which we loved. But those first 2 years, when we were married, he was in the service, were very difficult years for both of us. And at the time, looking back, I don't know how either one of us survived, but somehow you do on this thing. But I think at the same time it made our marriage a lot stronger.
Michael was born in the period when he was overseas.
Yes, Michael was born 6 weeks after Buford left for China. And then when he saw him, he was 2 years and 2 months old. And Mike said, "Hi, Daddy." Which is quite a greeting, you know, the first time you see your child, "Hi, Daddy." But I had shown him pictures and all, but I do think that those 2 years of separation and, let's face it, worry, because I didn't hear from him for 6 months at a time, and he didn't hear from your father, sent a civilian cablegram as the only way he knew Michael was born. Mm-hmm. We had gone through the Red Cross channels and all, and we thought it would go through, but for some reason Bob didn't think it would, so he sent a civilian cablegram, and I still have it, and it said everything is with small letters, no capital letters. Michael Dennis, born 12 October, everything fine, something Bob, and so that was the only way that that Buford knew, because it was about 3 months before he got the Red Cross. But he didn't have any way at all of knowing anything. He didn't know that it had been a C-section or anything until, I guess, Mike was 6 months old by that time. And so, but those were very hard years, and I still think that we've had some pretty hard years since then, but I do think that it has made our marriage a lot stronger throughout the earlier parts of it, because we know what it can be like to be alone. And I think we have always gotten strength from each other.
And I think that's the reason that we are so much like we are. We don't go anywhere for any length of time without the other one. That horror still comes back. I mean, I guess we were at the age when those things impress you so much more. And people talk about separate vacations, and I think they're great. If you've never been separated for 2 years, when you don't know where the other one is or the conditions under which they're living or anything, it does something. It leaves its mark. And for us it's been one of, I say, of strength. But when we think about that, nothing else really matters. I mean, we have had our disagreements. Of course, I'm always right, and I have trouble convincing him. But
I'm always right with Betty.
I know, of course.
She doesn't understand sometimes.
I know that even though that he doesn't understand that I'm right, we can think really back on important things, and whatever we have disagreed on, it gets smaller. It sounds sort of Pollyannish. I don't mean to sound that way, but it's true.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely is true. And
we use Vicky as an arbitrator with anything that we have to disagree with.
Sure.
Vicky, who's right? Mom or Daddy?
Vicky's wrong.
Vicky's wrong. Say,
I see.
not the way. That's
I
not the
think-
answer I expected. But
I think that's a very clever little girl you have there.
Very good.
Very
Where's Buford's
good.
officer's sword?
He never did get one because
When are you going to give it to him?
I would get one this minute if I knew how to go about getting it.
I'll get you one. They had an exhibition show I went to with Wilkinson.
I would give anything to get him one. Now this is extremely
Hang it
gruesome.
right there.
Yeah, this is a very gruesome thing, but I'll tell you about it. You can cut this. But we were talking the other day, and we had to make some decisions about land and right-of-ways and everything. And we have decided to be buried at Forest Hill in unmarked graves. And he wants to be buried in his uniform and everything. And he said, and if by that time I should have a sword, that would be nice. And end of gruesome talk.
It's not gruesome,
I
it's a
don't think it's
reality.
gruesome. It is a reality. It's a decision we had to make because of land, and as I say, of right-of-ways and all that sort of thing. But it's and then we had to get approval from the state attorney general to see if the law had been changed that you could be buried on your own property, and we have that in writing, of course, that we can, and so we went all through the details, and there were quite a few, incidentally, that but anyway, that little unpleasant thing is out of the way.
Well, I don't want to hurry things up.
But we're getting to
we
the end of the
need-
tape.
You need the saber.
Oh, I know. I really would love to have one. If you'll tell me how, when, or where, today I will start.
Can't do it today, but I'll write it to you.
Okay. And,
Vicky, Mama's going to fade us out on the camera in just a minute. I'm not, unless you
I
have
think
something.
I'm being very rushed because and the rest of my
Okay,
life is.
We're almost
I
on the
was
tape
born
now.
in a small town in southern West Virginia, and I have ended up.
Yes, well. We are currently at the site of the Big Bend Tunnel, right outside Hinton, West Virginia. This area right here is right on top of what used to be called Tunnel Hill, West Virginia. Now I believe called Hillendale. And this is the site where John Henry, who is the gentleman right here, if we can see him, raced the steam drill. This is about 5 to 6 miles, I guess, outside of Hinton, West Virginia. The cars going by in the background are people stopping in either here or going by on the main road into Hinton. The statue of John Henry was not here when I was a boy, and is recently, by recently I mean about 8 or 10 years ago, probably erected. as you go look over the overlook here, you get some idea of where we are. These railroad tracks are going directly into Big Bend Tunnel, which is right underneath my feet right now. And this is what made Hinton, West Virginia, one of the railroad centers of the East Coast about 40 or 50 years ago, I guess, because this was the tunnel through the mountain. 60 trains a day used to go into Hinton. Now, of course, it's very quiet, and I think they're even talking about closing down this tunnel. The alternate routes are now much more accessible than they were then. Around the corner, by the way, before you get here, is Little Bend Tunnel. This is Big Bend. We'll just take a quick pan around the overview of where we're standing. It's kind of a hazy day here, and we're just getting ready to get in the car and head on back home. See, I believe I know those people. What you doing, Vicki Willis? This road, by the way, comes up from Talcott, goes on up to the top of Tunnel Hill, and then down right into Hinton. Well, with that, we will say goodbye to John Henry. And Hinton. Where are we going? Into those hills? Would you like to narrate for us, Betty? Where are we going?
Not particularly, I'm driving, but...
We're just zooming on along, folks. Betty's zipping on down the road. Go ahead, pass this car, Betty. Pass this truck.
I'm going 100 miles an hour.
Come on, step on her for this truck too. Ready? Excellent. Ears are popping, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why there's ladies and gentlemen. It's only Betty and I'm going to be watching this thing. We're certainly not ladies or gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vic. Tell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
top of this thing yet?
Nope.
You want to try a scenic view?
Yeah.
There's a scenic view. And off to the right we have a scenic view.
I'm moving and passing the truck. You're going to have the side of the truck. You have the side of the truck.
So much for that scenic view. Now we'll just move on up to the next scenic view.
This is spooky in here.
That is neat.
Then you get the sides of the hills.
Oh yeah, the sides of the hills. At the side of that hill. Move your head, Vicky. Let's get Mama driving the car. Come on, Betty. Whip it on us. Hey, good, good.
Take over that now.
Mm-hmm. You have fun on these mountains, Vicky?
Yeah.
It's quite a hill. Brakes work?
Haven't tried it lately.
You might want to think about that.
Oh.
But we're going 100 miles an hour.
Feels like it.
This is like it.
Oh, I can't see. You keep hitting your head on the car.
Awfully steep angle we're on.
Well, don't move it. It'll fall off. How will I drive the car?
About the same way you are now.
What? What is that about?
Yeah, it's being funny.
It means daddy.
We seem to be picking up speed rather quickly. I hear the wind whistling around.
I even in one in my ears.
Because we're coasting, but we have no gas.
Probably don't. The next shot will be Betty standing on the side of the road trying to get a gas can. Okay, I think I've pretty well gotten this mountain, don't you?
Oh, I don't know.
Neither. It seems to be getting more exciting. Oh, you got it back in control, Betty. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, take to the right.
Hmm?
To the right.
Oh, yeah. To the right.
That's a pretty view.
Pretty view to the right. Certainly is. That's really a pretty view. Oh, and I love that bridge we just went by. Okay, I've always liked the ones on the side of the road. Now, this should really be nauseating by the time we play it back on television.
Look to the right again.
Go ahead. When I tell you, I want you to go ahead and step on the accelerator as hard as you can. Let's see if we can pick up the differential in motion. Okay, 1,
I'm already going that
2,
fast.
3, go.
Are you serious?
Yes, now. Wow! Astounding. Slow down, slow down. Whoa, much better. Okay, I think we stop now. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe we'll get another shot at Betty over here. Betty Driver. Okay, that's about enough of Betty Driver now.
Chief! 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 Come on, Vicky, you can move. Daddy doesn't want you to stand here like a poor little waif.
Look excited, Vicky.
We are home from vacation.
Say you're home, Vicky.
Are you glad to be home?
Don't get so excited. Tell her to calm down, Betty.
Calm down, Vicky. Daddy wants a big close-up of your facial expression. That's good. Okay, Daddy. We have to go see the dogs.
Go on.
Come on. I don't have the keys.
They're in my back pocket. That pocket. Very good. Goes Mama. Turn on the light in here when you go in.
Well, I can't get the, I don't know the key. I truly do not. One of these little ones opens this door.
It's alright, I got about 20 minutes worth of tape.
I know it doesn't go to the steel.
That was the right one, Betty. Jiggle it. Push it in further. Jiggle it. Oh, hum.
Watch it, Vicky.
Well, I'll stop this and go over and get it.
Good way. Good way. Hello? Hello? Anybody want a candy? Gee. Oh. Wow.
Call Chief and hug him.